Hey, good people, it's Ron Johnson, and this is Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it's Friday, so you know what that means. Yeah, I had fat waffles, of course, but also the Roundtable. And so today's Roundtable has a new look. No Reggie, no Sam. We definitely got Julia from Care 11, but we added Luke Inman. And so as we jump into these topics, there's a lot of stuff going on in sports. If you were asleep last night, you missed a great Lynx comeback game. You missed a Nafisa Collier nail in the coffin. You missed a Stewie. Come on, Stewie. But Stewie missed it. And now the Lynx are blessed with a chance. Now they're ahead to finish this off on the road and come back and maybe win it at home in 4. But there's so much more going on. You got the Minnesota Vikings on their bye week. You got the Gophers going to the Rose Bowl. We're going to get locked in on these topics, and we'll do that in just a minute.
This is the Locked On Sports Minnesota Roundtable, your favorite podcast personalities along with Care 11 sports reporters weighing in on the hottest topics. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, I'm your host, Ron Johnson, and this is Locked On Sports Minnesota, and this is the Friday Roundtable. Thank you for all those that are joining us on YouTube. We love it. Please continue to comment. Tell us what you think of the topics as we go through this. Also, those watching on Amazon, Fire, and Roku, we thank you as well. And please remember, just subscribe on YouTube. When you're on YouTube, on your phone or your app, on your desktop, just hit that subscribe button. It's locked into your email address, and you'll get all the updates right there on your phone whenever we go live with a postcast, with a show, with a hot topic. If Aaron Rodgers decides to retire week 8, we're going to talk about that. But we got to get locked in on these topics today, people. I got Julia Daniels joining me from Care 11. I got Luke Inman joining me from Locked On Sports Minnesota. And I'm your host, Ron Johnson, former Gophers wide receiver, NFL wide receiver, and all things sports football host. Gophers, Vikings, we do it all. But let's get locked in on these topics. Julia, what you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, of course we have to talk about this Lynx game last night. One of the biggest comebacks in WNBA postseason history. The biggest, I believe, in WNBA finals history. So, of course, we got to break that down.
Ron, I'm watching Thursday Night Football last night, watching these Niners. Got me thinking, who's the toughest test for the Vikings in the NFC? Who's standing in their way of a potential trip to the Super Bowl with that number 1 seed?
Injury is standing in their way. That's the only thing standing in their way of going to it.
Right.
But you know what? My Gophers, you see the oar. You see, I got the oar in the water, people. I never lost hope. USC came to town. Everybody's like, oh, they're going to be 2-4, headed to the Rose Bowl, and then we're going to fire Pete. No. We knocked off number 11, and now the Gophers have 6 games left. Can they become bowl eligible? We'll talk about our predictions or what we think their record, and we'll talk a little bit about this UCLA team that is struggling. My guy, Deshaun Foster, not doing so well down there in old LA. For those that don't know, UCLA is in Los Angeles. If you haven't seen the clip, please just Google Deshaun Foster in LA. And it's a funny presser. And PJ Fleck talked about that this week on the PJ Fleck show. But we're going to get locked in on this show. But I want everybody to know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Download the Game Time app today. And you know what? Luke hasn't been around for this one. Julia knows what to do on this, just like Ray Lewis. Luke, you know the Ray Lewis. What time is it?
I smell what's coming.
And we want everybody to know, too, Game Time app, I've used it for baseball tickets. You can still get Vikings tickets now. The more they win, the harder it is. So maybe look at some games further out, like the Cardinals. Maybe check out a later game like the Colts. Might be another great comeback. But the Game Time app, $20 off your first purchase. Like I said, download the Game Time app today because what time is it?
Game time.
There we go. All right. Well, let's jump into these topics. The first one, people, we want to talk about, kind of top of the mind. This is what everybody wants to know. What has been the single biggest surprise about the Vikings thus far? And when you think about the Minnesota Vikings and this team, I don't want you guys to take the easy route. 5-0, that's easy. Sam Darnold being good, that's kind of easy. Give me something that the fans don't really know about, but you're really surprised it's happening. And if yours is one of the common takes, feel free to talk about it. But Julie, what do you got for us?
For me, it's something that we've talked about a lot here recently, and you try to ask the guys about it, and they're kind of humble. It's one, the way that the free agency signings have worked so well for this team, because you had a bunch of sleepers that came in, particularly Andrew Van Ginkel has been like the big one where no one was really talking about him at training camp, blah, blah, blah. Everyone kind of whatever. And now he has 2 more touchdowns than a lot of the big offensive names in the league so far. So number one for me would be just the way that free agency signings have worked so well for this team. It seems so calculated. And before the season started, it just kind of seemed pretty random. With that, I will say, in particular, the new guys defensively and the way that they have been able to understand and work what Brian Flores wants. Because I think that was something last year when Brian Flores came in, we did a lot of coverage before the season started that said, hey, give this Vikings defense a few games before they actually figure out what's going on out there. And even with all of the new names that they have defensively, their defense looks incredible. And the new guys don't seem to be having any kind of a hard time figuring out this controlled chaos that Brian Flores likes to play. And I did talk to Stephon Gilmore about that. I think 2 weeks ago, I asked him, I was like, what is it like? I mean, you're a veteran who's played on a few different defenses. What is working so well? And he was like, it's just something about the way that Brian Flores teaches. And he's, worked with him before. So he was just like, it's just something about the way that he teaches and also encourages and motivates this defense that helps us kind of pick things up. But it also helps that you have guys that have been in this defense before, able to kind of help explain what's going on when it comes to Brian Flores' scheme. But for me, it's been just, in particular, the way that those new guys defensively have been able to pick up what Brian Flores is putting down.
Yeah, well said there, Julia. If you guys told me this team was starting 5-0, I would have said, okay, they must play the Titans, they must play the Browns, they must play the Raiders. They have passed so many great litmus tests already. I mean, this was the hard part of the schedule, and they just cruised through it. This was like the gauntlet to start the season. I went on record on the football party saying, if they don't beat the Giants in week 1, this team might start like 1-5. That's just how brutal the schedule was. So, I mean, I'm with you, Julia. Like, the defense jumps out, not just because it's been good, but not like 2022 good, where they were winning all these one-score games by the skin of their teeth. This defense has been historically good, breaking so many records already through 5 weeks. Brian Flores is like the absolute talk of the town right now, nationally, not just locally, nationally. You flip on ESPN during the daytime, everybody's breaking down Brian Flores' films, the things he's done to elite quarterbacks already. CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, now Aaron Rodgers. Like, it's almost unheard of. And the fact they've only trailed, everybody's heard the stat now, for 3.5 minutes in 300 total minutes of play. That is historic. Literally, teams that do that go to the Super Bowl more times than not. So I think you hit it right on the head, Julia. Like, to bring in all these free agents, these new guys, just plug them in to this exotic, complicated defensive scheme and start out as hot as they have, that just blows me away. And Ron, I know you don't want anything generic, but Sam Darnold, man, I didn't know we were going to get this version of Sam Darnold. I knew KOC would help. I knew Josh McCown would help. I knew Justin Jefferson, obviously that's not going to hurt. But knowing there was no TJ Hawkinson these first 6-7 weeks heading into the year, that scared me a lot. Not knowing what the running game was going to look like exactly, that scared me a lot. This Sam Darnold 4.0, it's just exceeding everybody's expectations right now. And then some. The poise he had, the game I go back to, San Fran, the poise he had in that San Francisco game at the end, all the momentum, if you remember, was on San Fran that fourth quarter. He comes out, makes big throw after big throw, big play after big play, leads them down to the game-winning score. His poise, that maturity, it's something I didn't know he had in him. And again, I think you combine the leadership at KOC, this historic defense, that's why they're 5-0, and why it feels sustainable, more importantly, unlike 2022.
Yeah, and the one thing that scares me, and so this is what surprises me, and I, me, Luke, I like to go to the stats, and I deep dived, and something hit me yesterday. I was looking through old podcast episodes that are on Instagram, and the one with Roy Hall Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State, draft pick of the Baltimore Colts. That's old. The Indianapolis Colts. And so when I was there coaching for 2 years, I had Roy as one of my receivers, and I don't remember the interview, and so that popped up where he says, I don't know if you had, he's like, I know you had relationships with all the receivers because I had him, Pierre Garçon, Gonzalez, I had Reggie Wayne, I had Marvin Harrison. And so, he talked about that. Like, oh, I know you probably had relationships with all the receivers. Because, yeah, me and Pierre were cool as heck, too. Like, I had a great relationship with Pierre. And he said, like, I really appreciated how you talked to me about the extra stuff. And the extra stuff, there's some stuff I'm not going to talk about. I can't. It's private, of course. But the other extra stuff was like the 6 a.m. meetings about, like, what Peyton Manning has in store. And so when I thought about that, I said, what did Peyton used to do? And I remember what Peyton used to do. And I started to look at the stats for the Vikings because I'm like, there's something that Sam Darnold's going to have to do in this next quarter of the season, if you want to call it, the next 5 games. And here's one thing Sam Darnold needs to do, and I don't know if he's doing it. And I'm going to actually text Josh McCown this because I'm like, yo, like Sam needs to get up and do this. He needs to learn TJ Hawkinson because he hasn't done anything with TJ Hawkinson. So here's what throws me off about this team. In the first half of games, they are second in TDs. Sam Darnold is second in passer rating with 120.9. That man is on fire in the first half of games. 48 for 73, almost 700 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 1 pick. You look at the team, 91 passes, 67 runs, 52 first downs. Like they are 4.7 yards per play, so almost 5 yards per play in the first half. In the second half, 4 TDs, tied for 22nd. Sam Darnold, 83 passer rating, 20th. So we went from second in the first half to 20th in the second half. You look at guys like Garrett Wilson who are climbing the charts in that. Justin Jefferson is the opposite as well. First half, Justin Jefferson, 27 targets. Second half, 16 targets. 32nd. He's 30. There's nothing Justin Jefferson should be 32nd in the world, except for maybe if there was a reverse gritty contest and it was ranked 32. Like that's the only way that Justin Jefferson should be ranked 32 in anything. You look at his receptions, Luke, in the first half, and Julia, 19 receptions in the first half. Second half, 7.
Yeah.
So there's something fundamentally off with this team. 0 touchdowns for Justin Jefferson in the second half, 4 in the first half, which is first in the NFL for first half touchdowns. Justin Jefferson with 4. First downs, 14, which is third in the NFL in the second half, 4. So there are some fundamental differences in the first half and the second half. And the only thing I can hope and pray is that, one, TJ Hawkinson not being there because the tight end usage is null and void. Like that's the reason why FanDuel had the Johnny Munt 0.5 yard prop bet. 0.5. So if he got 1 yard, you could bet the over and you win. The man had and then I saw Julie, I think she texted the group or tweeted, there's the Johnny Munt catch. So hopefully for the people that bet and listen to me about that one, hopefully you took the over on that because 0.5 was the tight end usage for Johnny Munt in Minnesota. So 1, TJ Hawkinson coming in hopefully helps in the second half. 2, Sam Darnold has to know in the second half what's going on. Like I remember Chris Carter, I asked him this question when Nick Mullins was taking over last year, and I said, what do you do if you're Justin Jefferson? He said, well, I don't really do anything. He said, because he knows who I am. He needs to get me the ball. I shouldn't have to tell him to get me the ball if I'm Justin Jefferson. And I think that's where Sam Darnold is now. Like in the second half, you got to go back to your horse. Like some people get caught up in what they call variable offense, meaning I need to have a variety of, like, I don't want everybody to think I'm good because I'm giving it to Justin Jefferson. So I'm going to have a variety of passes. I'm going to give it to Addison. I'm going to give it to Naylor. I'm going to go over here to Munt. I'm going to go over here to Oliver. I'm going to go over here to Aaron Jones. No. You go to the star. You go to the star. You treat this like you're Jesus trying to get to the manger, and there's only one way to get there. It's the star. You got to follow the star. And so if I am Sam Darnold, I'm looking at my second half, and I'm pretty sure the coaches get this stuff too, because this is out there. Because a lot of people are talking about Sam Darnold's last 6 quarters. He's been terrible and like, no, he hasn't. The defense has just been killing people. Like if they're getting off the field and they're putting touchdowns up, the offense doesn't have time to be on the field. Mm-hmm. But the point is, a lot of teams, are bleeding the clock out in the second half because they're trying to matriculate down the field to score. They've given up a lot of interceptions maybe early. The Vikings are number 1 in the NFL with interceptions right now at 11. So there's a lot of factors in this that I have to – but at the end of the day, there's no reason Justin Jefferson – because Garrett Wilson kind of stayed the same. And then in the second half, which is Aaron Rodgers' probably comeback time, he's jumped to number 1 with targets. Justin Jefferson's fallen all the way to 32. So that's my surprise.
Ron, I got to ask you, just because you played the game, I don't want to veer off too quick, but the opening drive game script, how much of those
plays.
numbers Yeah, how much of those numbers do you think it's KOC kind of drawing up and manufacturing all week those opening drive game scripts? And then after that, it's like, all right, now we just kind of got to wing it from here on out. Teams are going to double cover, obviously, JJ the whole game.
Yeah, and that's part of it because, I mean, so the one thing you could do, here's one way to do it, because that's come up before, because I brought this up last year. I think the Vikings had the same issue, is use the same 15 plays that you do in the beginning, do it in the end.
Yeah.
Like the same plays, like do the same exact plays. And so if you go with like time remaining in a game, because you can go with time remaining in a game, and I think you can do like 15 minutes remaining in the quarter, to like, let's go 9 minutes. So that's like the first couple series, because you can go first 2 minutes, you can go last 2 minutes. You can add another play filter, which is quarter. So in the first quarter, you can go with the time remaining, 15 minutes remaining in the first quarter to 9 minutes remaining in the first quarter. And that's kind of the stats to look at. That's that first 15, because we always talk about that. And you look at the Minnesota Vikings offense right now in that span, they are 26.3% first down to touchdown. In the whole first quarter, they're 26.8. So it's not just the first 15. He's just great at the beginning of the games. If you go down to first downs, Minnesota's kind of right there. They're at 10 in the first, so they're getting a lot of first downs early in that first grouping of time, and then it probably falls off. Yards to go early on. They're in the middle. They're in the middle of the delta. Like they're actually 8.1 yards to go per play. So it's not like because Carolina, on the other hand, which this makes zero sense, they're 5.3 yards to go per play. So I don't know how they're the best in the early part, and then they suck the rest of the game. But yeah, that's always something you could look at, because you can go down to Sam Darnold as well. And Sam Darnold in the first 15 is legit. His passer rating is 124.9. Hey, but Sam, or it's not Sam, sorry, Luke and Julia.
Yeah.
If you had to guess, so there's 5 quarterbacks. I'm not going to count Gardner Minshew, because he hasn't really. I'm not counting him.
Yep.
There's 5 quarterbacks right now in that top 5. And do you know the one right above Sam? So 124.9 is Sam Darnold. There's another quarterback at 126, 135, 138, 146. I'll tell you, number 1 is Justin Herbert.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Sam Darnold is 5th. So there's 3 quarterbacks in the middle.
I've seen Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold kind of sandwiched in between each other a lot in some of these stats, so I'm going to fling out Baker Mayfield. No. Oh, okay.
Julia?
All right.
Wait, what is this for?
This is the first 6 minutes of a game. These are the best quarterbacks to open up a game.
Brock Purdy?
Nope.
I'm just thinking of good head coaches who drop some good game scripts.
The whole league?
The whole league.
Is it Jaden Daniels?
Nope.
Ooh, that's a good guess, though.
Not
Jared Goff.
Nope.
Man.
One of them is on the worst team in the league right now.
Deshaun Watson.
No, there's somebody worse than them. The Bengals are the worst team in the league. So Joe Burrow is number 2.
Oh, Joe Burrow. Okay.
They're
the worst team in the league? Wow.
Yeah, record-wise, they are horrible.
Yeah.
They're 1-4.
Yeah, they're bad. They're
Kyler Murray is number 3.
Okay. Yep.
And number 4 is somebody that we used to know.
Kirk.
Yep.
Wow.
Good old Kirk Cousins. Hasn't changed. Kirk Cousins, we remember that. Kirk Cousins was always good to start games off. And everybody blamed the first 15 plays.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just Kirk Cousins.
No, I remember
Kirk
those
Cousins
days.
Just starts the game off well. He has great film. And then we know Kirktober is coming.
Yep.
So it might get even worse. Do the Vikings, by the fact, and not to get off topic, because we got the read coming up, so we got to word from our sponsors coming up. We got to talk about who's in the Vikings' way at the number 1 seed, and we got to get to this Lynx, because I'm super excited about that. Like when I was on my phone watching the Lynx game, like super. I love basketball, and I was super I was screaming at some of the passes late in the game, like Brianna Stewart had a turnover, then Sabrina had a turnover, then Williams has a turnover, then Sabrina has another turnover. I'm like, who are y'all passing the ball to? Like what? Like, and then at the end, like after you get a rebound, and they're probably gonna foul you. You got 8. Is it 8 seconds in the WNBA too to get the ball across the line? Do we know? Is it 10 still for the women?
I'll look it up. I think it is 8.
I think it's I know the NBA is 8. I didn't know if the WNBA followed the NBA, because I know sometimes women stick with the college rules. Because I know their 3-point line is not where the men's is.
Right.
But then she had an open lane to just dribble it out and just go, and she tries to pass it up the court. I'm like, oh, and Sabrina, and then the announcers piss me off. They're like, oh, and Sabrina just read it perfectly. She played it like a safety back there, just sitting back, and then she realized, oh, the pass is coming, and she picks it off against that. No. That was a dumb pass. That was a rushed pass, and the game should have been over a long time ago. But the 4-point play, like if I'm the coach too, I'm screaming like, why are you fouling the 3-point shooter?
Yeah.
Like just put a hand up and run by her, scream at her, do the clap. Like, so anyway, we'll get to that because I'm excited about that. That game was hype. Like I'm like, my 9-year-old plays basketball. So when she turns 10 tomorrow, actually is her birthday. So she'll be 10 tomorrow. And so I'm looking forward to watching that game with her because she plays basketball. And so for her being, she's 9 right now, she's 5'1". Wow. So I know she's going to probably be a power forward, small forward type of player. But she's strong. She's just like tall, strong kid. So I love for her to see girls like Stewart, because when you're tall, sometimes coaches don't want you to dribble the ball. And I'm like, no, you can still dribble it. You can still bring it up. Like you can still, like Caitlin Clark is 6 foot tall and she brings the ball up the court. So I'm like, don't shy away from dribbling the ball just because these coaches don't, oh, you're 5'1". Let's give it to the 4'4" girl and have her bring it up the court. No, I don't care if you're 4'5". It doesn't matter. Like she's big enough to just hold the girl off and bring it up and then lay it up. So anyway, we'll get to that because I'm still
picturing Ron coaching now on the sidelines.
I coach basketball too. I am that coach where I'm like on the court telling the girls what, because I played basketball in high school. So I love that. Like, that was my basketball, baseball, football. I did it all. So like, that's like, I love basketball though, because I've already taught her at this young age, because girls don't know it. When she gets in the post, once she feels the girl, just hook her a little bit. I'm like, they're not going to call the hook in the 4th grade. I'm like, just throw that elbow back, turn, lay it up, keep her on your back.
It's a veteran move.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then I'm like, you give her, and then she's got the like pump fake and the head nod with it. Oh yeah. I got her in the gym doing the hezzy. I was like, always fake left and then go to your right. And then once you got a lane, just keep going and lay it up. So she's tall and she's strong. So because
she needs to come watch Lifetime Ron ball it up from.
She's played some younger girls, and I wasn't there for the game.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
and she came home, and I'm like, "How'd it go?" She's like, "Oh, they were little." I was like, "What does that mean?" She's like, "Oh, I just went through them."
Oh man!
She knows. She's like, I'm like, "Hey, if you're bigger, just turn your back and bang through." Like, like baby Draymond, she's down there just, she's just going to work. So I don't need her. But she doesn't get like Draymond because she's taller. So some of the little girls that try to guard her in the post, they like scratch her, grab her, pull her jersey. So I always tell her, I'm like, look, I know you could probably throw that girl down, but don't do it. I'm like, and she gets tripped, she gets pushed. And so
you got to sell the flop though, too. You got to teach her the flop though, too.
Well, at this age, they just fall.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that's why I got to get her some knee. She wears knee pads in volleyball. I'm like, you might need to start wearing knee pads in basketball. Like, because a lot of the college girls do it. And like, because they trip in basketball for girls. But anyway, we'll get to women's basketball in a minute. But before we jump into that, because I forget what was I about to say?
We got a quick word from our sponsor here after this.
Oh, I was actually about the Vikings, didn't I, Julia? What was I about to ask you?
You were about to. You said, "Are the Vikings?" Because we were talking about Kirk, but I don't know what.
Oh, do they play Kirk in October?
No,
November, right?
Oh, okay, then they're clear. They're clear of the nuclear October Kirk. Because you don't want Red October because he's wearing red now. You don't want Red October coming to Minnesota. Because they're gonna go at some point. They're gonna go with the old like Falcons uniforms when the Vikings missed the field goal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's coming too at some point. So you don't want Red October coming to Minnesota. So I'm glad it's not.
You guys have seen all these stats comparing the 98 Vikings through 5 weeks and the 2024 Vikes, right? So I
haven't seen the stats.
Oh, okay. It's pretty great. Through 5 weeks, they both have the bye in week 6. Through 5 weeks, a lot of similar stats. So how crazy would it be if the Vikes played the Falcons in the NFC Championship?
It could happen.
Game? Can you imagine?
It could happen. Like Kirk Cousins is doing well. Bijan Robinson hasn't been unlocked yet. Drake London looks ridiculous. Like he is balling with Kirk.
Yeah.
The one that throws me off is Kyle Pitts. Is he hurt?
No. I mean, he finally scored on Thursday Night Football. Was that last?
His usage has not been there, and so people are joking like, "See, you should have gave Kirk number 8."
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That's right.
Because Kirk's like, I haven't forgot. Forget you. I'm going to number 5. I'm not going to 8. I can't throw to myself. You should have gave me 8. Like if I was Kyle Pitts, I would have taken 8, and then I would have asked the coaches for like number 1 or number 4 or something like that. Like I would have went with a single digit that was open, and give the man, like, this dude's been 10, 11 years, or I don't even know how many years Kirk's been in the league.
About 10. Yeah, it's gotta be close to 10.
You got to give the starting quarterback his number. Like he should not have to pay you or ask you for it.
That's
like,
the guy who's going to feed you the ball, man.
Correct. And
Whatever
even if I think Kirk was willing to pay, but it was all about like how much. And it's like, if it's $100,000, like, come on, man. Kirk got 180 million.
Come on now.
$100,000, give me my 8. Like if I'm Kyle Pitts, nobody knows Kyle Pitts is 8. Like you haven't done anything in 8 to think you need to keep it. It's one thing if you're, Randy Moss, but you're Kyle Pitts. You haven't done anything in the 8 to feel like you need to have
it. It ain't hanging in the rafters or anything after these 4 years.
It's amazing to me how dumb some guys are. And so, I'm not saying Kirk purposely did it, but it's just funny that people were saying that. And now it's kind of come to fruition that Drake London is this guy, Bijan Robinson is this guy, and Kirk's still, and the Falcons are doing well. So, but it's time to move on. We're going to move on to, we got the Minnesota Vikings #1 seed talk coming up. So is that some 49ers? Is that some Washington Commanders? We'll talk about all that and the links, of course, after word from our sponsors.
Thanks, Ron. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to you by Game Time, because you should never have to worry when buying tickets to any big event. That's why Game Time, it's the fastest and the easiest way to buy tickets to any local event, talking concerts, comedy shows, sporting events, Broadway theater, and with killer last-minute deals and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And with their all-in prices, Game Time shows you exactly how much you're spending with no hidden fees. Time to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. See for yourself just how easy it is. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, just create any new account. Redeem your code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. What time is it? Game Time. Terms apply.
What time is it? Game time. I'm not gonna lie. The first time Ray Lewis did that, my rookie year, I think we were playing Monday night against the Broncos.
That was your rookie year when Ray Lewis started busting that out?
Yeah, like
did you know it was going to be iconic?
He had been doing it before because he did it at the Super Bowl. But like that, they won the Super Bowl in 2000. So 2001, he kind of did it, but 2002, it became a thing where they added the Nelly Hot in Here.
And then he was on Madden cover in 04, I want to say.
So my third year, we were the Madden team because we got the game early. Like they came out to our training camp, gave us all the game early. We got to see ourselves on the game early. We all got got a decent check. Not gonna lie.
That's pretty cool. Where you're like, whoa, 77 speed. Ron Johnson. What's going on?
I was like 79. They gave me 79.
All right, fair enough.
My strength was up there. My strength was like 92 though. I was strong.
You were gonna say something. They handed you that check, and you're like, all right.
Yeah, because they were like, oh yeah, you guys are the Madden team, so we're gonna show up with the whole we got to see the cover first because Ray hadn't even seen the cover. Like he did the pictures, and so it was like an unveiling. The good thing is it was before cell phones and like being able to post, so there was nobody saying like don't post this online. Like there was nothing.
Don't
to post.
leak it.
There was nothing to do, so it wasn't like even the people that had the internet had to like get on AOL and wait for it to dial up, and then it was wasn't the same. And yeah, I'll never forget that. But like when he did that dance that year against the Broncos, like it was like, oh, okay.
Don't lie. Did you go home and try to do it in the mirror by yourself?
No, but we used to do it. We used to joke around and do it like in the locker room. We mess with them because the funniest story was what game was that? So they switched our field in 2003. So 2002 we had turf or grass. 2003 when we came back we had turf. And so if you remember, Ray used to grab a piece of turf, or like a whole handful of grass and he would rub it on his chest like a gladiator, like the whole gladiator thing. And he'd wipe the dirt on his face. And he just was saying and that's why Terrell Suggs start coming out in the mask. Remember, he had the gladiator helmet, silver helmet. So they were like gladiators, and then he used to come crawling out the tunnel like a beast. And so they had this whole gladiator, like locker room feel. And so when we got turf, like we went and practiced on it, and so we're like, oh, they don't have the dirt for you, and they used to call them 10 because his signing bonus was 10 million flat after taxes, and so he walked away with $10 million on his first contract, and so they called him 10, and so they was like 10, what's going on, man? Like, what you gonna do? And so he didn't know either, so they put like a grass. He thought they had replanted grass for him. It was like just basically sod from Home Depot. It was like a square of sod from Home Depot. And he grabs it thinking it's grass that he can rip off and do the rub. Yeah. The whole square comes up. He slaps himself
like a
with
yard
it.
by yard, foot by
it was
foot,
like a big, huge,
square.
And it was too late to like abandoned ship or whatever you call what eject or I forgot what you call it, but
code red.
It was too late to abandon ship, so he had to keep going, and he hits himself with the whole square. Dirt gets all in his eye, like he can't see. He like starts doing the dance. I got to find the game and see if we can see it on YouTube. When he comes running past us, like after he does it, half the guys are on the ground laughing because everybody at least we all realized what happened. And like the defensive guys, offensive guys, we kind of but the defensive guys were on the ground dying laugh. They could not believe that he didn't realize it wasn't nailed down grass and that it was just a big piece of sod.
And he just pulled up this giant chunk of just
right.
grass.
But also for our marketing team too, I look like now that I know the ins and outs of the NFL and how that works.
Yeah.
I'm like, for the marketing team, you got to be like, who the hell signed for this? Like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah.
And so Billick replayed it later. Was like, Ray, what were you thinking here?
He played it back later.
Oh yeah, our coaches used to Rex Ryan, Brian Billick.
That's hilarious.
They used to like Gary Zonner. They used to be hilarious with like finding stuff. Like they found one time like a cheerleader did a backflip and landed on her back. They like played that for us because they were like, why are y'all laughing at her? Because like the players were laughing at her because we were like looking and we looked over and she had like flipped and fell. So they're playing that. Then they like play us on the sideline laughing. He's like, "You're lucky we won because clearly y'all learned focus." And
calling you guys out.
Oh, he was calling us out. It was hilarious though. So then we started calling the eye in the sky. So that was one of those things in the league where you had to kind of be careful. But as we move on to this, being careful in the NFL because it's NFC week six, right? The six.
Week six, baby.
Yeah, 6.
Week 6.
NFL week 6, NFC, AFC. Of course, you got the Chiefs in the AFC. But in the NFC, I don't know if you guys heard the broadcast, Thursday Night Football broadcast. And the question was asked, like, hey, who's the best team in the NFC? And da-da-da. And 49ers? Maybe the Commanders? There was no peep of the Minnesota Vikings. And so I don't know what it's going to take no peep of them on the broadcast. Just Google. I forgot the person who said it, but it was on Twitter.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe we like that. Maybe that's
fine. I'm fine with that.
Maybe we like it.
But I saw the tweet and then I kind of went back and watched it because I heard him talking about it, but I didn't pick that up that he didn't say Vikings. But if it's a tweet, it's a tweet with the video out there. I saw it last night, but I fell asleep, so I never even actually watched it. But I do remember it had the teams listed that he said maybe this, maybe that. But he was like, oh, no. Here was the question. It said long term. This is what pisses me off. Nobody talks about long term. And the question was long term. That's the question. That's what it threw me off. Long term, who's the best team in the NFC? So not right now. You don't want to admit right now it could be the Vikings.
Right.
Long term. And long term, they said the 49ers, the Lions, Commanders. But nobody said the Vikings long term. Crazy. So they're just not buying into Sam Darnold over 17 weeks. So I'll start with you on that one, Luke, because I think that was your question. Take it away.
I mean, again, I'll be honest. I was going to say the Niners, even if they lost last night, because you just know the Niners are going to be there at the end. They're going to be in the mix at the end. And again, the conversation here we're talking about today is like, who is the biggest threat for this number 1 seed for the Vikings? But the Niners, man, just too much talent. Arguably the best head coach in the NFL the last 3-4 years in Kyle Shanahan. We've seen this so many times. Teams like this start slow the first month or two. To your point here, Ron, what you were saying. But if you've been watching enough football long enough, the season doesn't really start crunch time until November and December. That's when the best teams every year, they just turn it on, they flip the switch, they get hot, they go on a run. Rodgers did it with the Packers all the time. Brady did it with the Patriots all the time. They would start like 2-2. They'd start a little slow. They look off, and then they go like 7-1 the last 8 games. Dolphins, the reversed effect. I mean, they always start hot, and then when it gets cold, they just fall apart. So San Fran got to be at the top of my list. Too much talent, too many like blue chip premium guys. Bosa, Fred Warner, this Purdy Shanahan connection is just top notch. Trent Williams is a top 2, top 3 tackle. Not to mention, they haven't even played with Christian McCaffrey yet either. And even if it takes them a couple more weeks, eventually they're going to get the number 1 running back back in the league as well. So I think the Niners are going to be right there with the Vikes, breathing down their neck when it's all said and done. Outside of that, though, you flung out a couple other teams. NFC just feels wide open, man. Seahawks are crashing kind of back down to earth. Cowboys and Eagles, they're not really doing it for me right now. They're not playing with a lot of swag. It's got to be the Lions next up. It's got to be the Lions right behind the Niners. One drive away from the Super Bowl last year. They're coming back better than ever, and they look like the other team to beat. What's going to be interesting, think about this, guys. Obviously, only one team can win the North. So it's either the Vikes or the Lions. The other team is going to have to be a wild card team and go through the playoffs on the road if they want to make the Super Bowl. So that's huge. So I know it's only week 7 next game for the Vikings. Week 7 is still early, but you got to know and understand really the implications in line with these matchups when Vikes-Lions play. Not just to go up another game, but to have the tiebreaker at the end too. That's so huge. Vikes, Niners, Lions, all in that top tier.
Julia.
I'm going to go Niners, yes, but in a move that, everyone expected before the season started. The Commanders look great.
Yeah.
I mean, they lose week 1, and then they come back and beat everyone else. And Daniels, there's just something about those Daniels games.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, they are talented. They're working with their execution. It's a classic Daniels trait to just be, good at whatever you put your mind.
It's genetic. It's yep.
What about Chase Daniels? Are you claiming him too?
Okay. Ron. They're the highest scoring team, I think, in the league right now. Daniels is doing things that no other rookie is doing this year. I think if I was looking at his stuff earlier, let's see if I can find it. First player in NFL history to pass for at least 1,000 yards and rush for at least 250 in his first 5 career games. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting to me too, because when you look at Jaden Daniels, you're like, he's like this little stick out there.
Yeah.
That he looks like a receiver, but he is so elusive and athletic. The way that he's able to, they're coming for him, but he's so little and fast. I mean, he's tall, but he's skinny. He's got 2 picks, I think. His passer rating is 106.
Yeah, it's off the charts. Yeah.
Yeah. Over 1,100 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, I just think it's interesting. When I was watching the Commanders Bengals game, that's when I was like, oh, they have my attention. I think that's just an unexpected turn that everyone's like, oh, wait, the Commanders are looking pretty good. But like you said, I think you're right in saying, they're the real teams, whoever's really the best, it comes later in the season when you start to really see who's sticking with it.
Yeah, and I think the Commanders are going to give the Ravens a run for their money. That's probably a game the Commanders now can win, if you think about that. So that's the Beltway battle. So that's going to be a fun one when you think about both teams being over in that area, both teams being 40 minutes away from each other, both teams probably partying together on Sunday night. So we used to hang out with the Redskins all this, they were the Redskins. I can say that at the time. Like Santana, that's how Santana Moss and I became friends. Clinton Portis and I. We used to like go down there. Sean Taylor. I remember going to some of their parties they would have at the house when Santana Moss and him and Clinton Portis and Sean Taylor had a birthday party together. So it's a rivalry that they all love. The fans are going to love it. And this is the year, like last year, it's been like the last couple years actually has been just run away with the Ravens. Now Jaden Daniels walking that stadium. I will say NFC, I'm going to go Commanders, 49ers, Lions. Those 3 teams to me seem like they can emerge and get in the Vikings' way. And those are 3 tough ones. The good thing is they already dealt with the 49ers, so they're good there. They got 2 Lions games, and I think those 2 Lions games are going to be very key to who ends up with that bye in the first week. And that bye in the first week can mean resting your guys. That can mean not getting an additional guy hurt. I know there's some thought process to like actually playing through the whole thing, so your guys are warm and they're not coming in rusty. But I always say if you can rest, and that number 1 seed looks good. But now it's time to move on to the Lynx. They just won. They're up 1-0. Julia, take it away.
Ooh, it's the WNBA finals. And last night, everyone got their money's worth, whether they paid to watch the game or not. It was, I would say, one of the greatest basketball games I've ever seen in my entire life. The Lynx were down by 18 points at one point. They had an 18-point deficit. With 5 minutes and 20 seconds left to go, they were down by 15 points. And somehow they pull off one of the greatest comebacks, probably the greatest comeback I've ever seen before maybe besides that Colts game with the Vikings a few years ago. This was just incredible. Courtney Williams at the very end there, she shoots for three, she misses. They get the ball right back to her. She shoots again, she sinks it. Lynx have the lead. It's an and one, Lynx have the lead. Just incredible. I mean, I've had several conversations with the Lynx and Cheryl about what it is about this team and their ability to adjust on the fly. And she's like, and Cheryl says that's one of their superpowers. It's the chemistry that they have, but she also credits the IQ that these players have. Their basketball IQ is off the charts. It's one of the best that she says she's ever coached before. And also just Nafisa Collier too. I mean, the plays that she makes when it's crunch time have, impressed us for years, especially this season, but last night in particular, especially in overtime. The only time that the Lynx led during regulation was with 5 seconds left on the clock.
Jeez.
And then they come back and they win this game. It's a testament to, I feel like it just embodies this Lynx team as a whole. It's kind of like a metaphor for them, not only this season, but last season. They called last year a rebuild year, and then they still make the playoff. This year, they're able to make it to the WNBA finals with basically a whole new cast of characters that they've only had for a year and a half or so. So I just think, if this is setting the tone for the rest of the series, we're in for a lot of entertainment and a lot of really great basketball.
You almost have to put that in the same tier with the Minneapolis Miracle in game 163 for the Twins. Like, maybe you don't want to put it higher on the list than either of those, that's fine. But in the same tier, like, to your point, Julia, that's how insane that game was and how big the magnitude, how big the stage was, being the greatest comeback in, a WNBA finals game ever. And again, you don't have to be a big expert to sit there and just watch. Those last 4 or 5 minutes were just so entertaining. I was just so blown away the way everything unfolded. And, okay, rallying back from 18 down, that's like a feat on its own. But at the end, the shots that were made, some of those defensive possessions, those final few drives were insane. The missed free throw everybody's going to talk about with no time on the clock to go to overtime. It was just insane. It was just a back and forth, very dramatic. For them to go do what they did in a game one of the finals, on the road no less, in New York, such a big stage. It just speaks volumes to the character, the leadership. A lot of teams would have given up at halftime, say, you know what? It's a 5-game series. Let's just move on, chalk this one up. Let's get fresh and move on to game 2. Bigger picture, though, just as a sports fan, I'm just so impressed with the way that the league has grown in popularity from the beginning of the year to now. You just don't see that happen very often, if ever, nowadays anymore. Not this quickly and at such a rapid pace. So just very encouraging all the way around, not just for the Lynx, but just the WNBA, the product they're putting out there as a whole. One quick thing I'll say at the end, you got to be a little worried about, just historically, we've seen this throughout sports just in general, when there's an epic comeback of this magnitude or a thrilling last-second victory, the following game, that team typically comes out a little flat or deflated right away. That's just how it works. Minneapolis Miracle, great example. They get blown out in Philly. Tons of examples of it. And I think it happens more often than people think. So it's so emotional, so exhausting. It's tough to just move on to the next game as quickly as the other team. There's a hangover to a degree. It just makes sense. So that's the next challenge, I think. Coming into game 2, ready to roll, hopefully put them away back at home at the Target Center and go raise that 5th banner up there sometime next year.
This is what I'll say, Sam. Or Sarah, I keep saying Sam. Luke. It just fits the way to say it.
It's a muscle memory. I get it.
The one thing you brought up about big comebacks, let down, and I hope it doesn't happen, but here's where I think that's all men. Like, if you think about the women's sports world, you don't have that.
Yeah.
Like Caitlin Clark, think about the Iowa game, and I'm going all the way back to Iowa in college. Think about Iowa having to come back in that game. I think it was the Big Ten championship. Mm-hmm. They come back, because everybody thinks they're down, they're out, they're not going to win. They come back, they win, and then what she do? She goes on in the tourney and keeps balling. Like, I think women can handle that because they're emotionally built better than men. Yeah. We're just emotional, like we're emotional teeny tiny little boys. Like, they are always emotional women. Like, they know how to handle emotions. Where we get exhausted, they have babies and they get up and make dinner the next day. So it's just a difference and how we handle stress compared to how they handle stress. It's just how God created us. So I think these women are going to go out there. I actually think the opposite. I think this puts doubt in the Liberty. The Liberty was like, if you watch their bench, they were like feeling themselves like, oh, what are we going to do tonight in New York? Oh, look at Spike Lee. He's going to be hanging out. We're going to be in the next Jordan commercial. Sabrina, you got your new shoe coming out next week. By the way, I'm selling Sabrina shoes, boys and girls, for those high school people out there, college people watching and listening. We got Sabrinas in stock, people. It's a great shoe. But Sabrina, you know, like they were just like, and I say this all the time. I think that's what the problem is with Minnesota Vikings. When you get a big lead, sometimes you relax. Like we're doing a mic'd up package on Sunday that has Blake Cashman across the pond. I'm interested to see what some of the sideline mic'd up stuff is. Yeah. Because I know they edit some of the stuff, but like human nature, it's tough to like stay like, oh, we got to stay in this. We got to be in this game.
Yeah.
Like when you're up 18, like, I mean, if I'm Stewie, I'm over there like, hey, what? Look at that dude got a pizza over there. You know, like you just feel like you got them where you want them. And then all of a sudden, play by play by play, like 18 in football, it's like, oh, that's 2 touchdowns and a field goal.
Right.
And a 2-point conversion or whatever. So, you know, there's a chance. Basketball is like, man, you know how many shots they got to make and how many we got to miss for them to come back? And it happened though. So I think like New York might be doubting themselves because somebody bought this up. I think, what is it, 6 NBA finals for them and no championship?
Is that right?
Yeah, they've been in the finals, I think, 6 times for New York.
That's like a
right?
Vikings stat, right? 0 for 4 in the Super Bowl?
It's something like that. Like somebody posted that, like 6 finals and no championship. So here comes doubt for them. You know, it's like, oh, dang, like what's wrong with us? Why can't we ever get over the hump? Why can't we win it? Whereas the Lynx, they could look up in the rafters and say, oh, look at that. We're champions. So I think this is about to be like a 2-0 Lynx. And then maybe come home and just sweep it. Like, you know, who knows? Like, we'll see. Or Lynx in 4? Yeah. Lynx in 4 at home? I mean, I don't know. But I just feel like this is going to be a tough one. But we got to talk about the Gophers real quick before we get out of here. We got a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks, Ron. Quick reminder, today's episode also brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, and now for a limited time, FanDuel's giving you a chance at a huge return, $200 in bonus bets with your first $5 wager. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Get in on some Monday Night Football action while you're there. Bills versus the Jets. Current line, Bills by 2.5. Over-under sitting at just 40.5. It's all up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed with your first $5 wager. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Well, we got about a minute left in the show. Real quick before we get out of here. Gophers are 3-3 through the halfway point. They knocked off number 11 USC. They should have won beat Michigan if the referees stay out of it. And if you look at that early game against North Carolina, if Max Brosmer gets maybe a little bit more comfortable, like maybe play Rhode Island first before you play North Carolina, they win that game as well. This could be a 5-1 team with only losing to Iowa because that was truly a loss. But now they're 3-3, headed down to UCLA, who's not that great. Really quick before we get out of here, Julia, what do you think their record is down the stretch for it to be a successful season?
Let me look at their schedule.
The tough games they have coming up are Illinois, Penn State, and Wisconsin. Yeah. So those are the toughest ones.
Rutgers in there, Maryland in there.
Yeah, Rutgers and Maryland, I think, are winnable.
I think if they win 2 of those at least, then we say successful season.
Yeah.
Because you got UCLA, Maryland, Rutgers is the winnables, and then you got number 23, Illinois. You got number 4. Oh my God.
Yeah, Penn
4
State
now.
Just
number 4,
fire.
Penn State, and then Wisconsin, who's not ranked, and they just lost their running back, but they're still good. Here's the one thing I'll say. Last time Penn State was number 4, they walked into Minnesota. And they walked out with a loss. So, hey, just saying, history could repeat itself. And they do have another safety back there by the name of Coy Parrish, who is just like Antoine Winfield, Jordan Houghton. So, hey.
Newman. Yep.
So
I still think
Julia?
6 wins. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Luke, what did you say? 6 wins?
I was going to say, I still think 6 wins is what you hope for. That's kind of what most experts had them heading into the year. In fact, I actually think 6 wins this way would feel a lot better than the 6 wins people had written down before the season started, beating North Carolina, losing to USC. Even though you lost a game or two that you probably should have won on the flip side, it also means you won a game or two that no one really gave us a chance for. And just having that marquee blue chip win on PJ's resume for that USC number 11 seed, knocking them off, I think that's huge, man. I think that's awesome. So I still think 6 wins feels very successful after the slow start that they had.
Julia.
I think 7 wins because of how much they've proved themselves this season. I think that the expectation is higher.
Yep, I agree. 7 wins. I think UCLA, Maryland, and Rutgers need to be, UCLA, Maryland, Rutgers, and Wisconsin. Those 4 need to be wins. They can lose to Penn State because they're number 4. They can lose to a ranked Illinois because they're ranked. And so when you look at who they've lost to an Iowa team that's really good, number 1 running back. They lost to a top 15 team in Michigan. The UNC loss, that's the one that's going to be like a black eye. Yep. But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Julia Daniels. That was Luke Inman today, not Sam Ekstrom. This has been Locked On Sports Minnesota. This is the Friday Roundtable. Remember, people, please subscribe. Go to YouTube and hit the subscribe button. And then remember, after every Vikings and Gophers games this season, we're going to have postcasts. We're also going to have them after the Wild and the Wolves and the Twins as well. But the Wild and the Wolves are coming soon. But right now, when this Gopher game ends, it's going to be a late one. But I'm going to have that champagne on ice, ready to go to just have a little toast to the UCLA victory. I'm Ron Johnson. That's Julia Daniels. That's been Luke Inman. Well, thank you guys. Have a great weekend, people.